Tonight, we're shining a light on a dark and largely unknown chapter of American history. During the Cold War, in the name of preparing for the Soviet threat, the U.S. government conducting human experiments on its own people, unwitting Americans without their knowledge or consent. Children, some of them orphans, were fed radioactive oatmeal. They were told they were joining a science club, promised a quart of milk a day, a trip to the beach. Years later, they testified about the after effects, reporting lumps on my arms, my stomach. And then in Tennessee and California, pregnant women were given a radioactive cocktail at top universities to see how it crossed the placenta to their unborn babies, some later suffering miscarriages, illness, and cancer. These are not conspiracy theories. They are documented government experiments. And now at News Nation, we are asking, what were they doing in St. Louis? I went on the ground as residents tell me about a mysterious fog sprayed through their neighborhood when they were kids. A fog that moved like a ghost, clung to their skin, and settled over more than 10,000 Americans who lived there.
They didn't ask for our permission. We didn't ask for them to spray us. My government used me like I was a guinea pig.
They're waiting us out.
They're waiting on all of us to die.
The U.S. Army now admits they sprayed a chemical containing cadmium, a known carcinogen, but they do not admit harm. Residents tell me they've been getting sick, some of them with rare cancers, and they're asking, was there anything else in that spray? I investigated.
Damn, I mean, that's more than an experiment. When you know it's a carcinogen, it's a biological weapon. You're going to use it against your enemy. And you're testing it on your own citizens is sick. It's truly sick to believe that they would test a weapon on their own citizens as if they're just spraying ants. It doesn't really matter.
What was in that fog and why the truth may still be buried. The fog drifted through the streets like a ghost.
That's exactly what it looked like, a thick fog.
It was summertime and it was hot. We would just run through it as fast as we could and try to just cool ourselves off. It stuck to you.
The spray was so foul as far as the odor. It made some of us have headaches, nausea, dizziness.
That's what I remember. It made me sick.
It wasn't the weather. It was an eerie smoke descending from rooftops, rolling from the backs of trucks.
Damn. And that's like pretty much out in the damn face. But what about water supplies for particular communities? Man, I mean, the potential to poison certain groups of people, and especially if it's at the government level, the military involved, oh my God, that's some scary stuff to think about. I mean, and especially because whenever you talk in those terms or bring that kind of stuff up to people, they look at you and like, come on, Black Popcorn, man, you tripping. Ain't nobody, and here we are in 2025 and we're uncovering this. What have we not been told? What other documents are top secret? Should we be allowed to have a task force of our own? I mean, go in and have the privilege to look at some of this stuff that's classified and determine whether it needs to be told. Is there a story that needs to be told? Are they so ashamed of what might come out that they wouldn't even consider something like that? It's something we need to consider. It is scary to think that this went on and is only being uncovered now, and we're like still in a place where we have more trust than we probably should.
Regular flatbed truck, but it had a big machine on the back, and it had a big nozzle that really sprayed a fog you couldn't even see through. It was that thick, and it really, we felt it as it would adhere to our skin. And as far as the guys on top of the buildings, they tried to portray them to us as maintenance workers. But we was like, what is a maintenance worker doing? And basically a hazmat suit. And they had
hazmat suits to protect themselves, PPE, personal protective equipment to protect themselves. But the residents and the occupants of that city they're basically experimenting on, or were they experimenting? Were they really just trying to kill him? What would the experiment have been? Can we kill him? How fast will it take him to die? But if ultimately death was in the equation at the end, that's murder. That's an intentional extermination of a targeted group of people. And I can't believe, with the potential for other stories like this to be buried in top secret files, the government is able to commit such atrocities and shield itself from scrutiny by classifying the documents so no one will ever get to read them. And then when they do, we'll look back as it being what a bad period, a black eye in our history. But when we have the opportunity to deal with it, to learn from it, to expose this, no one wants to do that. They want to kick the can down the road. It's very bad, very bad. These poor people.
Mask and goggles.
In the 1950s and 60s, in secret, the U.S. Army sprayed zinc cadmium sulfide into the air of a St. Louis housing project, a largely black neighborhood called Pruitt-Igoe.
It was a lose-lose situation for us in Pruitt-Igoe. We were subjects. We were subjects.
They didn't ask for our permission. We didn't ask for them to spray us. My government used me like I was a guinea pig.
We're standing at where Pruitt-Igoe used to be here in St. Louis, and it's hard to believe more than 10,000 people used to live here. As we bring our drone up, you can see it's mostly just an empty lot now, overgrown with trees. This used to be filled with 33 high-rise buildings. It was all demolished in 1976. And according to the National Research Council, St. Louis was chosen for spraying experiments because it had similar characteristics to Soviet targets like Moscow in terms of population density and terrain and proximity to a river.
That's messed up that they would say that shit in that document because it had proximity to Moscow, you know, the terrain, maybe the weather, maybe the amount of people in a particular square mile area or whatever. But if that exact condition had existed, except the people were white and not black, would they have sprayed them? Would they have went in and said, hey, God damn it, it's even closer because people in Moscow are white. And now we got a white housing project in the United States that's like fucking perfect. Would they have sprayed it? Shit, no, they wouldn't have. And even in this news story, they're stopping short of saying what I just said, but it's just say that shit. The condition, she drawn all the parallels. That's sad shit. That they would really expect whoever comes across this document in future generations to look at that and say, oh, they weren't racist. They just found a community that was close to Moscow in so many, it lined up on so many points, they couldn't help but use it. Its proximity to a lake, its proximity to... Wow, that's fucked up. That they would put that in that document and expect people to buy that shit. I believe that a document like that, and unfortunately it's not that old, it might be some people that's still alive. And it's damn sure some people that's alive who know about it. That's why it's still top secret. If they would like put a normal, release to the public date on it, everybody would be like, whatever, ain't nothing to see here. But when you are in government or they shut down your bureau, they shut down your shit, now things are starting to pop out that people probably knew about. They pissed off at the government now because they had lifelong positions. Trump comes in, fires a bunch of people. They're like, oh, okay. These are the people who are keeping the secrets. People who are cleared to see this stuff and to know this stuff. Record librarians, document people. And they're looking at this stuff and in possession of this stuff and safeguarding this stuff and keeping secrets. Now, I'm pissed them off and you still start seeping out. We're going to hopefully hear more of this so that we can continue to draw the picture. that's being drawn, and see the response of our co-inhabitants of the country. Who else feels as strongly as we do about those type of experiments, and other people being involved in being experimented on? Pregnant women, they didn't mention the race in a lot of that. It's pretty hard to believe that everybody they went after was black. I'm sure there are other poor people that they wouldn't mind testing some chemicals out on. So it's just a sad thing when any human life means that little to you, no matter what, that you are willing to just exterminate them. If somebody came into the person running that program's office and says, "Oh my God, sir, that stuff we sprayed on the people in the projects in St. Louis, all of them died. All 10,000 of them, every one of them, they're all dead." The next day, that guy would be like, "Yeah, the shit worked. That's what it was meant to do." He didn't spray it to make them healthy. He didn't spray it for money to start falling out of the sky into their pockets. He sprayed it to kill them. That's murder. And if the person who did that without the proper chain of command and the proper higher ups being informed and known, if it didn't come from that direction, that person would be criminally charged and possibly some co-conspirators with them. But how would you know when people now in 2025 are still hiding information and cases and historic stuff from us, the American public? They don't want us to know. That's a crime in itself.
The government now admits to a secretive series of Cold War tests, including one dubbed Large Area Coverage. More than 30 tests conducted across the U.S. and Canada, spraying zinc cadmium sulfide from planes, rooftops, and vehicles to simulate how a biological attack might spread.
Across the U.S. and Canada. Damn, that's bad. To think that a government would do that, that's chilling. We need a change. We need a government that has a conscience, a government that's really looking out for its people, that's humane, and that really prioritizes the taxpayers, the people who pay all the money. You're paying taxes. You're going to work every day. And then when you come home from work and you're sitting on your couch with the window open, nice breeze coming in, drinking a cold beer, hard day at work complete, and what's that blowing in the window, babe? Can you close that window? Oh shit, what's going on? I don't know. There's some street workers out there. Look like they causing up a bunch of dust or something. Yeah, close that window. Oh shit. Close the window. You got some goddamn carcinogen flowing in your apartment, attacking your kids and your wife and your neighbors. That's messed up, man. That's messed up.
All to prepare for potential warfare against the Soviets.
Many of us been in the military and had top secret clearances. We know how it works.
We have died for America. We have fought for America.
You are a veteran.
I am United States Air Force veteran.
Dr. Starks, you're a veteran as well,
Yes, I am. I'm an Air Force veteran also.
Is there a sense of betrayal here?
Definitely. Definitely.
They want to know if those secret tests have anything to do with what they're observing with their own eyes.
I lost my two older siblings to cancer. I lost a brother last month.
I've been diagnosed recently with a rare form of lymphoma.
I had cancer of the left kidney, had partial removal of my left kidney.
News Nation reached out to the Army for answers. They provided a one-page response. It says the Army's own Center for Health Promotion and Preventive Medicine investigated in 1994 and found inhalation exposure would not pose a health risk. They also cite later corroborating reviews, including a 1997 review by the National Research Council. Perhaps they assumed we wouldn't read the NRC's 380-page report, but we did, and the Army's statement doesn't show the full picture. In that 1997 review, the National Research Council explicitly says repeated exposure to zinc cadmium sulfide can cause kidney or bone toxicity or lung cancer if levels are high enough. And they admitted they couldn't fully assess the risk. Why? Because some Army records remain classified, it says, for national security reasons.
Hell yeah, for national security reasons. If you tried to exterminate a certain group of people intentionally and they find out, the national security risk is that they could go fucking nuts and start blowing up shit and be pissed off about that. You don't take that kind of stuff lying down. Your government is directly attacking you, trying to murder you and your family and and your neighbors. You guys mean that much to them. If one of those guys running that steady had a friend or a neighbor who lived in proximity of that area, that test would have been moved to some other state or some other jurisdiction. It wouldn't have happened. One person that those folks cared about could have changed everything for those folks in St. Louis. We went somewhere else though, but God damn it. What cold-blooded people to do something like that, and for the people now who are uncovering this to absolutely get in a politician's ear, one who's willing to listen and make enough noise, and who has a committee that has the opportunity and the power to uncover some shit. They need to close the doors. They back in session now. They done had barbecue and shit. Go your ass back to work and start digging through these top secret files, the ones you don't know about. And the ones you know about, start fucking talking. There needs to be a 30-day opportunity for everybody to spill their guts. And then if you are known to have known something, that not that you was a part of it, but if you was known for a fact to have known something that should have been disclosed during this 30-day window, then we can't help you. That's a crime. But for you have a 30-day window to spill your guts and let us know what you know that maybe we won't find. And you might risk not saying nothing. Hopefully they won't find it. But if they do, and it can be linked to you, or maybe it won't be. Maybe it'll be linked to somebody else who links you to it. But there gotta be some goddamn disciplinary actions for this kind of stuff. There's absolutely no way we have all these black folks who's in their 80s and 90s who don't know about this stuff. They have to know about this stuff. And if they don't, that's even more of a reason why they need to step down. They need to step the fuck down anyway. But if they know that the United States is, we all know about the Tuskegee air experiment. We all know about the slaves being experimented on, and how medicine in the United States is. But then to think that beyond doing things like trying to cure something or find, even though it's wrong to do that to somebody, but you're not even doing that. You're not even trying to do something for the good of your people unless you just figure killing 10,000 black people would be good for your people. How do you justify doing that? You can't. And how do you justify piggybacking off of that into where we are today? Anybody who has touched that file, had knowledge of that file between now and then, or then and now, they need to be talked to. They need to be said, the fuck is you thinking about? Oh no, that'll upset the blacks. And it might be Democrats in the center of this. And then, oh no, we'll lose them for sure. Well, maybe we will. Maybe we will. Who backed this? Who knew about this? Why did this happen? Everybody wants to talk about times have obviously are still fucked up for us. We can't even get to the bottom of something that could help us all. And especially if we can identify people who may have passed this on through their genes and genetics and into their gene pool in their families. I mean, we don't know the full scope of the damage that could be done there. And it's just so sad to know that any human life can mean that little to anybody.
More troubling, key Army exposure records were missing. And when the NRC asked the Army to supply them, the Army said it couldn't find them. Finally, the NRC considered conducting its own study, but concluded it wasn't feasible. In short, it did not test the site, collect samples, or test residents.
Yeah, it just wasn't feasible. Damn. To go and see if there's any remnants of the toxicity of the spray, and they know what was in that shit, and they know they did it, and you can, if you have that kind of circumstantial shit, and the only thing missing is the soil test, the radiology, the levels that may be left behind. You don't even need that part. We got enough information that these people are preserving and guarding and not allowing other people to share in that information, in that knowledge. Or you know what they say, if you don't study history, it'll repeat itself. Well, shit, if you don't know about it, it really can repeat itself. How far into this country's future did these tests go? Did these exterminations happen? Did they kill people who could have lived or who should be among us right now because they needed them dead for a reason that was justifiable to the government? A government is not supposed to turn its arms on its citizens. It's not supposed to experiment to see a weapon that will for sure kill people, how quick it'll kill them on its own population. Hopefully not on any population.
And they didn't have access to all the data. Their review was based on what the Army gave them and what the Army either could not find or withheld. The Army ends its statement to News Nation by saying, quote, none of the reports contained evidence of a radioactive component to the zinc cadmium sulfide dispersion tests. Residents say the secrecy and delays are no accident.
They're waiting us out.
They're waiting on all of us to die.
We're on our way to meet with a researcher right now who has dedicated her career, decades, to declassifying documents and trying to figure out what exactly happened here in the city of St. Louis and what exactly was in that spray. Across the country, the government conducted secret Cold War experiments in plain sight.
It was so secretive that we're really just now sort of digging out from underneath us to try to understand the scale of it.
And Dr. Lisa Martino Taylor helped uncover many of them.
We know that they were giving radioactive cocktails to pregnant women. We know that they were feeding radioactive oatmeal to children in state schools. They've admitted
that could explain a lot of things to a lot of people. Things and ailments that people had that couldn't be explained or that hadn't happened to people before, may have been misdiagnosed or died without ever being diagnosed. And they're willing to do that to people. What if it doesn't kill everybody it's supposed to kill, and some of them just have some kind of health issue as a result of it, mental or physical? And our government is willing to lie to them when they go to the doctor, and they know that the people from that particular area are going to show up at these community hospitals asking, hey, what in the fuck is wrong with me? You know what I'm saying? I think I'm growing another eyeball back. What in the fuck is going on? And you know, they tell them, oh, no, we don't know what that could be. And to know in the medical profession, who in the military got that order and where did that order come from? Yeah, do the complex over there in St. Louis. Yeah, where they house those blacks, 10,000 of them. It's called a project. Yeah, use that. Who said those words? Who thought that would be the one to do? Although there are other black projects in the country, but who picked that one? And well, we know it wasn't because it was probably like Moscow, because it lacks white people, and they actually sprayed to kill approximately 10,000 black people. That is just crazy that we find out, and that story isn't on the front page of somebody's news being put other than Black Popcorn. Because I need this story to get out to you guys so you can understand that sometimes I rant, sometimes I get pissed off, sometimes I be having flashbacks and shit. But it's because of a reason. It's because you get incited by this stuff. It gets to you, and to talk to you guys about it and let you guys know, hey, it's things that we all need to be bringing to everybody's attention so that we can all have the same thought process. And it has to begin with doing something for yourself and doing something for other people that's going to be positive. You have to. If you can do something for somebody else, I'm all for it. I think it's a wonderful thing to do. But if what you're doing for somebody else is harming somebody else, then that's not a good thing. We got to find out how to be win-win and, good thumbs up on both your hands and not, all the heartburn that we've been experiencing in this country. And to believe at the hands of our own military. That was an army operation.
To those things, and they won't release the material related to St. Louis.
It's true. American children in state-run institutions like the Fernald School were fed radioactive oatmeal as part of studies by MIT sponsored by the Atomic Energy Commission.
See? Taxpayer money. They're doing cancer research at these universities paid. That's what was going on over there at Harvard. Remember, you guys? They were talking about cutting $60 billion of funding to their, or $600 billion. It's a lot of goddamn money for their cancer department for their research. And they're like, what? We're not going to be able to make the advances in the... Well, if MIT and Harvard and these places are getting these large amounts of grants that don't have to be paid back into their school for their cancer research, and they always have, and they take these dollars and experiment on the general population, segments of the population that they don't mind experimenting on, and everybody is supposed to be okay with that. This is a big deal. This is a story that requires Congress, while they're over there throwing pebbles at Trump's window, they could really be mounting a fight that could really expose the character of a whole lot of people. If you're either you guilty or you innocent. And if you're innocent, it's because you don't know. If you know something, it's time to speak. We need these people to start rolling over and letting us know what's really been cracking. And if you don't know anything about that operation, but you know something about something maybe far worse, or of its equivalent, or maybe not quite as bad, but it's still immoral and a bad injustice on a particular group of people in this country, whatever group that is, that information needs to be turned over. The United States government needs to be put on trial for the government that it has run up till now under the disguise of being something that it isn't. They need to straight out have, like what Trump is trying to do, but with the United States citizens involved and making this government really work for us and making the money that we pay in taxes really fucking count and not be given money that goes to these prestigious universities and they experiment on citizens in the country and they do other shit with that money that is not right. It's totally not what that money is for. And we're right to complain and be pissed off and mad about it. But to think that that human life is ranking that low on the charts is some unspeakable stuff.
You can see some of the documents Dr. Martino Taylor worked to gather and declassify on MIT letterhead describing experiments on human subjects. The children, some of them orphans, were told they'd be joining a science club. They were promised a quart of milk a day, a trip to a baseball game, to the beach. A copy of the 1994 congressional hearing shows those children, now grown, describing being told the oatmeal was just vitamins and recalling the health problems that followed.
You're giving kids radioactive oatmeal. Telling me, the little black kid back in that time to be told they get to go to a baseball game. It's 1953. You're talking about Jackie Robinson era, into the early 60s and baseball in general. A little black kid to be like, what? You gonna take me to a base? That's messed up. And you got this kid all messed up in the head thinking that you're doing good. They're feeding me, they're giving me milk, and they're going to take me to a baseball game and to the beach. God damn. That's messed up.
Bumps on my arms, my stomach. Pregnant women were also unknowingly given radioactive iron at top hospitals in Tennessee and California to study how radiation crossed the placenta, some later reporting miscarriages, illness, or birth defects. A class action lawsuit resulted in a settlement in the 90s. Do you believe the...
Did everybody even know? Did they get all the victims? Or did they do that so that they could say they took care of it? That is not nothing I never heard about, and it may have been huge, and it may have been publicized, but I'm sorry, I never heard about it, and I was a kid from that era. Shit, I don't know if the amount of iron that was in a particular syringe was really iron. My mom probably had iron issues, low iron or whatever, and they injecting her with radioactive shit. Maybe that's why I be talking shit, because it's the radiation. You never know, because there's no way in hell that thing shouldn't start busting open around here. If this doesn't result in an avalanche of information coming forward, then we really haven't progressed that much. There's absolutely no way that we have all these programs and projects. And I'm going to tell you something else. The census. They wait until motherfuckers is old and dead who has done dirty stuff or whatever reason they're shielding those census. I believe a census should probably be released after 10 years. After 10 years, make it whatever census we took in 2010 should have been released in 2020. Who give a damn? For accuracy, for whatever, It's just so many things that's done with no explanation. And you don't have to have an explanation for secrets and shit like that until you run a super top secret operation, kill a few thousand people, and chronically, who knows, and what damage you may do to their ability to have children, the ability of their children to be born healthy, and grandchildren, and on down the line. Who knows? But to be willing to put anyone in that kind of jeopardy, and then to have other people who really weren't directly involved with setting that program up, calling the shots, or had their no blood on their hands, but find out and are still willing to help bury the body, still willing to help hide things that shouldn't be hidden. And if they are to be hidden, not by you. Let the people who did that shit did it. Tell them you shouldn't have told me. There's just no way. No one's anonymously just leaked this out. That is tight. We can't keep nobody in the United States from leaking shit. Everybody leaking about everything. Everything you can think about. All over from the top to the bottom. But when it comes to shit like that, damn. I wonder, do senators or congressmen listen to this and say, the folks down, the representatives in the House, do they sit down and hear this and say, what? Like, are they shocked, or do they go, I knew that would get out? Do they know about this shit, or do they know about other shit, but do they know it goes to this level?
The U.S. government sprayed some kind of radioactive material on the residents of St. Louis.
I believe that they did. There's so much contextual evidence that points that way, and I spent years looking at this.
She says her research reveals the men who designed and oversaw the St. Louis experiments were some of the top experts in radioactive weapons.
We know that the people who designed the study, who oversaw the study, these were all the radiological weapons experts who were looking at open air radiological weapons.
One of them, Brigadier General William Creasy, was head of the Army Chemical Corps, the very branch leading America's secret radiological weapons program during the Cold War. He brought in a scientist named Philip Layton, who was the Army's leading authority on using radioactive particles in aerosol form, fog-like clouds designed to drift over enemy terrain. So the very man who designed this spraying experiment in St. Louis was an expert in using radioactive fog against the enemy.
Yes, he was the expert, the expert.
Then she says there's the timing.
They were looking for a city to test their offensive weapons program. They wanted to do it. They expressed this in documents. St. Louis was their chosen city. That was their analog city to Moscow. And they wanted to do this in 1953. They showed up in 1953 in St. Louis.
But there's one document Dr. Martino Taylor has never been able to unearth. It's still classified. The Joint Quarterly Reports detail the spraying experiments, all written by Layton himself. The last one is missing. It's called Joint Quarterly Report 5, and we tried to get it. Our team filed a Freedom of Information Act request on May 5th of 2025. By law, the government must respond to a FOIA within 20 working days, but it's been more than 3 months with multiple follow-ups. Nothing.
I mean, the big part of that, or excuse that they could use, is that might be one of the departments that was affected by Trump's closures and shit. You know, you may just not have the manpower or the people, or this would be an obvious time for them to use that kind of an excuse with some validity. But, you know, it ain't nothing that can go on forever and ever. Now that we know, things might take a little longer to uncover, to get back, but it's gotta go forward. Oh my God. Whew. It's just so much to take when you hear about this stuff, and these people are about this nice of spirits as you can be, to be able to sit there and you're not talking about your ancestors anymore. You're talking about yourself. Yeah, they just came in our community spraying some shit out of the back of a truck, and it's just, you know, close that windows, making people cough. Is that fucked up? Yeah, it takes a person with a devilish mind to think up that kind of stuff. I mean, God damn it. If you were going to do something like that, if you have the need to test something like that, and you figure that you have people in your country that you despise or dislike or don't care about to that level, that you pick them. I mean, the fact that you being any human is unfortunate. I mean, shit, you wouldn't even want to see that done to animals, you know. But God, if you picked, you know, a bunch of monkeys or what, guinea pigs, or, you know, rabbits, but God, humans, you're willing to exact that kind of damage to humans.
Silence is what's called a constructive denial, and renowned activist Erin Brockovich says it reminds her of cases where the truth was hidden. So, Erin, what is your reaction to this News Nation investigation? Did this shock even you?
Absolutely. I think my comment was, are we WTF the kidding me? I mean, what the hell? It's awful. I mean, the biggest thing, and I've learned in 30 years, is it's always the cover up that enrages people, that hurts people. And I've learned that communities can handle the truth. What they don't handle, and where they'll tip a scale, is the lie. So this has been a cover up, and I think that modern day agencies owe it to them. The truth.
Do you think there's been a lie here, a cover up here?
It sure looks that way.
Our investigation now drawing attention from lawmakers, including Congressman Wesley Bell of Missouri.
When American citizens have been impacted and exposed to chemicals specifically because of the federal government, I think that we should do, as Democrats and Republicans, we should all do the right.
Nah, he fucked up right there. Ain't no Democrat and Republican my fucking ass. They didn't attack a apartment building full of Democrats. They attacked a apartment building, a project full of black people. That was the mindset. They weren't looking at maps of where the Democrats were. They were looking at maps of where some black people were. That is fucked up. And for him to sit there and try to bring that politics in so that we cannot be protected by that fucked up ass Democratic Party, we don't need that. This is something we're gonna have to do ourselves. And as a representative, if he has an opportunity to utilize some resources that we don't have access to, by all means. But by no means will you put this in the Democratic Party's hands, or even put their name near it, because right now, this is something that we need to deal with whoever is currently the custodian of those records. And that's it.
Make certain to make these folks whole again, get them the compensation they deserve and the treatment that they need and also deserve.
It can happen to you. Don't get duped that it can't happen to you. We didn't think it was going to happen to us. We was babies, kids. It can happen to you, too.
Representative Bell is now fighting to get Pruitt-Igoe included in the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act that would provide payouts to Americans who can prove they were exposed to radiation during the Cold War. But for Pruitt-Igoe residents, there's a catch. Because key records remain classified, they haven't been able to prove what they were exposed to.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. As long as they keep the shit classified, you'll die. And then they'll unclassify them. When none of those 10,000 people or any of their folks who are in their line of their lineage, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, or cousins or whatever, they're going to make sure that they limit their liability. And they're limiting their liability by just shutting the fuck up right now. And have been shutting the fuck up since they did this. To think that we talk about Tuskegee, we talk about this shit, and these people are not letting up. That isn't about as blatant as you can be with what a group of people mean to you, how you feel about them.
What do you want everyone to know about what happened here?
The truth. Whatever the truth is, we want to know the truth. I don't think we're getting it now.
In the meantime, residents say all they can do is wait, hoping someone finally listens. When will you give up this fight?
Never. Till I'm cold and dead and buried in my grave.
We asked the Army point blank, was there a radioactive component to that spray? It's interesting that they didn't just say no. Rather, they said, quote, none of the reports contained evidence of a radioactive component, pointing us to reports like a review by the National Research Council. But a close read of that report shows even the NRC admitted they could not fully assess the risk of the spraying, because when they asked the Army for key records, the Army replied the documents were either classified or were missing. The Army could not find them. These residents feel the government is waiting them out. The people you just heard from are the ones who are still here or are well enough to speak. And I have to tell you, one woman we were supposed to meet with died before we could get to her, suffering from multiple cancers. Her daughter asked us to keep going, and we will keep pushing for information, including those classified documents.
And that's what whoever is authorizing these, the custodian of this record, to keep it classified, it's being passed on to the next one, top secret, and to not be, because there is some criteria that will be met and then it'll be released. But that criteria isn't met, and most of it is the passage of time and the passage of some people. And they're dropping off. I mean, you know, just to think in our own country, you know, we were children in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s. And was our government doing this kind of stuff and trying to find out what a pandemic would do to us, or if it would affect us, you know, as quickly as we'd like it to affect the person who it's intended for? And it never got deployed on those people, and it probably never will. But in the process, the lives of this particular group of American citizens meant nothing. We are not in a place to be just chilling and lollygagging around here. And the only things that we can talk about are the things we know about. So a lot of times we insinuate and wonder, and based on if they did this, and this, and it'd be hard to believe they didn't do that. But that's very hard to this United States is a very difficult place to navigate. Find your place, find your footing, get some traction, and do something good in this place. I truly do believe everybody has the potential, and a lot of people have the and I don't know where it comes from, but over here you get a lot of people who will look at your progress, look at your accomplishments, and look at your net worth and all the other things that they can look at and assess you and choose from their heart and mind that just you good. You've had a good life. You've done well for yourself. You cool. You know, you had a job, you had a business, whatever you did. But it's not for anyone on the outside to assess anybody and tell them whether they did good or bad. If that person's happy with their accomplishments, then we should all be happy for them, and not care so much and not incorporate ourselves so much into other people's shit. people really have dreams that might not live up to your expectations. I don't mean it's not a bad dream or any of that kind of stuff. It just doesn't, nothing you would do. But if you can appreciate that person's ability to make their own decisions, to pursue their own dreams, and to be left alone and without someone trying to harm them. Imagine getting up and going to school every day from your project apartment building and sitting at your table, eating breakfast, lunch, dinner with your family, and not knowing that some government source was actively trying to kill your family. Is that crazy? I tell you, folks, we have got to do better, and they got to do better too. All of us got to do better. This is not going to work at all. Very sad story. Like, comment, share, and please subscribe. And we'll see you on the next Black Popcorn.